Okay, and I think my waiting room is empty. Okay, so welcome everyone. If you wouldn't mind muting your microphones if you're not already muted, except for Amanda and Olivia, of course. Tonight we have two young women whom I met many years ago when they were small children. And they came to Clark School when I was the director at Clark School. And I've known them for years. We've kept in touch, and they graciously agreed to be my first speakers tonight for you. And they are going to talk a little bit about navigating school and work as an individual who is deaf or hard of hearing. So I'd like to introduce Amanda Keenan and Olivia Williams. Just give a little wave, girls.
Hi, guys.
And I'll turn it over to you. Who wants to go first, Amanda or Olivia?
I don't care.
You can go first. You already started.
Okay, so you just want me to?
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about your experience and just a little bit about yourself to start.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. My name is Olivia Williams. I am from Johnston, Rhode Island, and I have two cochlear implants. I became deaf when I was 4.5, and I got my first cochlear implant at 5, and my second at almost 13 years old. I did attend Clark back in, I believe it was 2000. Was it 2000? I didn't think it was 2000. And I attended there until 2002, I believe. So yeah, I spent about 2 years there. And from there, I went to Clark School in Northampton for 2 years as well before coming back to Rhode Island. And I went to a small private school in the 3rd grade. And then I attended Lincoln School in Providence from 4th grade to senior year. And since then, I attended Stonehill College, transferred after 2 years, went to RIT, and spent my last 2 years there. And I just recently graduated with my master's from RIT as well in 3 concentrations. And now I'm working since, post like COVID is still happening. But yeah, that's me.
Well, I'm Amanda Keenan. I am from Hopedale, Massachusetts, which is a very small town. I was born profoundly deaf. I have 2 cochlear implants. I got my first one at the age of 3 and my second one at the age of 14. I went to Clark since I was probably 2 years old, 2.5 years old, and I went all the way to like 1st grade, and then transferred back home, went to a public school, which at Hopedale Memorial School, and then stayed there throughout, graduated from there, went to Rochester Institute of Technology, part of the NTID program for a year. Then I transferred directly into RIT, and then I graduated in 2018 with my bachelor's degree and a minor in American Sign Language and Deaf Studies. And then I'm currently working right now. I've been with a small company in Pawtucket, Rhode Island called Ads Life Marketing. I've been there for about almost 2 years now working.
And what do you do there, Amanda?
So I'm a graphic designer. So I do a lot of sale flyers for different grocery stores, and I do a lot of different like websites for some grocery stores and some like ad campaigns for non-grocery store, just like different clients that want design work done.
Awesome. I guess my daughter wants to say hello to everyone.
Hi, Ashley.
You see Amanda? Not right now. Okay. So this is one of the COVID things that happens is you cannot be by yourself anywhere ever.
I totally
when you're working at home. Ashley, I cannot do that right now. No, I can't. Okay. So one of the things that that I had done when I was preparing for tonight is I asked some of the students that I work with some of the questions that they would like to ask you. So I think to start with, I'll ask you some of those questions, and then towards when we're done with some of those, I will also ask people if they want to ask questions in the chat. and we can answer questions from the chat as well. So you'll have an opportunity to ask questions if I don't come up with what you'd like to know. One of the things that a lot of the students asked was, what is one thing that you wish you knew when you were younger that you know now?
That's a really good question, actually.
Well, can I point out there's a few things that I learned as I got older that I wished I knew I was younger. So one of the biggest things that I never wanted to use was closed caption. I was afraid to use it when I was a little kid. When I got a little bit older, I hated using it. I would not stand it. And then as I got into college, mostly college, I started using closed caption on my TV screen, my laptop, and every single classroom that I'm in, if we watch videos for like one of my design classes, they always had closed caption. I always fell in love with it. And I wish it was something I mainly focused on when I was a little kid. So I got a better understanding of what is happening in the world and what's going on TV. Another thing I really wish that I'm happy that Cochlear now has is a mini microphone. So when you go out to a whole bunch of people, like I lost track, I couldn't understand what's happening and who I was having a conversation with because there was too much commotion. So I feel like I like how they have a mini mic because now you are able to put it on the table and hear the conversation that's happening around the table instead of trying to turn your head a million times to see what's happening.
So it's like a remote mic that works through Bluetooth or whatever and streams directly to your cochlear implant processors?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Go
I
ahead.
was, what were you gonna say?
No, that's okay. I'll hold it.
Oh, I was just gonna say the same thing with the mini mic. I just like, because I used an FM system growing up. My entire life, I used an FM system from 3rd grade until senior year of high school, actually. But with the mini microphone, I started using it my sophomore year of college at Stonehill because I found that it was more difficult to hear my professors. So I ended up using it, and it was so much more clear than the FM system, in my opinion. And then after I transferred to RIT, I stopped using the mini mic just because other students needed their professors to wear an FM system. And they asked if I wanted to be a part of it. And I said, oh, no, I'm actually all set. Like, as long as I sit up front and I could hear the professor, I'm good. But that mini microphone, I wish that had been invented back in like the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Should I answer the question that was in the chat?
Sure.
So the reason my parents tried to get me using closed caption when I was a little kid, but since being deaf, you have to work twice as hard in school and trying to keep up with all the learning that you're using in school. I started coming home and I'm just getting tired of reading, like mainly focusing on what's happening, that I was like, I'm getting tired of reading. I don't want to read anymore. And with closed caption, I felt like I had to read, and it was like, it's making me read as much, where now I'm actually able to like understand what is being said instead of like missing like every other word what's being said. And then I just like closed caption has really changed my life now compared when I was a little kid.
I remember being one of the ones to tell you to use closed captioning.
She always yelled at me when I didn't have it on.
Yeah. And notice whenever you came over my house with your sisters, it was always on. My TV always has closed captioning on. Closed captioning, what we found, research shows, it really helps everyone. And the district that I'm in is pretty good about using closed captioning. So there's a lot of resources that still aren't closed caption, which I just can't understand. Right. But it really is helpful to everyone.
I definitely want to add that when I was in college, when I noticed I started using closed caption, a lot of the professors who are not deaf or hard of hearing, they use closed caption because it helps them understand it better. And I was amazed by not only us were using it, it was benefiting everyone else to use it too.
Yeah, that's great. Now, you were talking about how you used to get tired and, of reading, and I'm sure of listening. And one of the things that my students asked too was, when you were in college and in high school, like, did you ever get just exhausted from listening? Did you get headaches? And were there any things that you found you could do to help yourself from sort of suffering from listening fatigue all the time?
Um, I could definitely answer that. So I noticed, I think when I was probably in eighth grade, I started noticing after lunch, I would, the slump would hit and I would literally try to fall asleep in class and I could not figure out why I was so tired. And I was like, well, maybe it's just because I had a really good lunch or something like that. I don't know. But it kept happening throughout high school. And I think I believe a sophomore year, I just talked to my parents and I told them I'm exhausted. Like I'm tired by 12:30 and I just want to go to bed. So we found out later on that it was listening fatigue and we were able to add to my IEP at the time where like it would be any class really any time in the day if I felt tired or anything I was allowed to have a movement break we called it and I would just get up and walk around like down the hallway go downstairs or upstairs and like give myself at least about 10 minutes which was good because 10 minutes is just plenty enough like to clear your mind and then go back to class and you're good for the rest of the day. I found that it worked for me. And then in college, I didn't really use them as much because our classes were a lot shorter, but in high school, definitely, definitely a lot longer. So I would say like a 10-minute movement break was the best solution.
I
That's great.
definitely agree. Yeah, you can go ahead.
I was just thinking, we have in a lot of the kids that I work with, their IEPs do say that they're allowed to take a listening break. And what I find tricky is nobody wants to miss anything. So, so even if they're tired, they don't want to leave and, and they don't want to, they're afraid they're going to miss something in the class. But I think it's so important to sort of notice those patterns in yourself and figure out a way that you can work it in without interrupting, your class or whatever.
Well, I definitely was gonna say, not so like elementary school, I had like recess, like an hour recess. So that was like my break. And then as I entered junior, senior high school, we will be in classes every single day. So in my IEP, we decided that we would add a period of like directed study. So I get like a free period where I could just focus on my homework, but not only that, like take like a breather of what has been going on throughout my day and like take a minute to like rest my head and just my ears and everything just so I don't get very frustrated what I'm learning. And then as I went to college, classes are spaced out, which I really liked. But for me, as my major, my classes were over 3 hour long straight. So I had like we had more freedom as we got older in college, using our time in class, like we can go up and walk around. But a lot of times when we have like a 3 hour class, my teachers will always like do a 15-minute break. So that's the time I basically got up and like walked like on the floor, like walked around like the building for like 5 minutes. And I timed myself. I'm like, okay, I got 5 minutes to walk around the building trying to find a snack. And that helped me to like actually take a break and like realize, okay, what have I learned? And then like that time I had closed caption as one of my disability services was closed caption. So I would take the time quickly, like what did like the last part of the assignment and then go take a break and then come back and then look at that again and then I would start work again. I'm like very time consistent. I like to like make sure I have time for myself and then not be like strictly working all the time in classes.
Awesome. And I was just thinking about, we've been talking a lot about college, thinking about back to middle school. One of the challenges in middle school, when you mentioned the FM, Olivia, I thought, oh, the FM or hat systems are the bane of my existence because my middle schoolers do not want to wear them. And I think there's something about middle school that just when it kicks in, kids don't want to look different than everybody else. They don't want, even this year, we had difficulty with captions working on Chromebooks. So we were able to get Apple computers for the students. But even some of my students were concerned about having an Apple computer when everyone else has a Chromebook because it looks different. So can you guys talk a little bit about, like, does middle school end? Do those feelings go away? And do you decide that you want accommodations that are helpful, or talk a little bit about that process for me?
So literally, like, okay, I'll tell you this. My parents pushed me to use an FM system. Like, I was forced to use it. I had to use it. I didn't want to use it. It was like sixth grade. I was like, I don't want to use it, but I had to. So back then, because it's 2021, I was in middle school back in 2007. That's a long time ago. So I would say that back then, the FM system, it was a little bit bigger back then. And since then, it's gotten a lot smaller. So in middle school, I had a boot that I would put on, like, to my processor. I didn't like putting it on every morning, but I had to. I would just leave it on for the day. And I don't remember too much about the transmitter, but I remember my teacher wearing something on their waist, like their waistline, and like bringing the mic up to their collar and just clipping it on. And I would literally carried it around and be like, here, like, just give it to them and not even like look at anybody. I was like, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I don't want to use this. But by the time I hit 8th grade, I realized that my classmates didn't care. Like, they did not care. They just asked me, like, oh, what is that? Like, what does that help you with? And I would explain it to them, and they were like, oh, that's really cool. Like, it helps you hear better. And I was like, yeah, it does help me hear better. And literally, like, from 8th grade and on, I did not care what anyone thought, like, about my FM system. But it did get a lot smaller. So by senior year, I was using the Roger pen and the neck loop, like, transmitter. And it didn't bother my classmates because they did not care at all. They were just like, it's gonna help her, and we've known her forever, so it doesn't matter. But I would say, like, it's specifically in middle school, it can be hard because we're all going through phases in our life, and we don't know, like, what other people are thinking, because we are more more concerned about what other people think. But later on, you're going to realize that they really don't care. Like, they just say, oh, like, if they ask you, just tell them what it is, and they'll just be like, oh, that's cool. Or unless they're mean to you about it, then that's their problem, move on. Like, it's going to help you do better in your classes and socially too when you're like having discussions in class.
Wow. Miss Jordan knows my stories. Middle school was awful for me. I probably went throughout elementary school all the way to graduation high school. I probably went through 5 FM systems. They all end up breaking on me. The school like tries to get fixed and it just never works. 7th grade was pretty fun. I had a small FM. Well, I had like a medium-sized FM that I would put the boot in, and then the teacher would wear that. Used to hate having to leave class a little early, go into my other class and give it on the FM. I would just hate going to give them the FM and be like, here you go. And then the worst thing about an FM system is, like, when they go step out in the hall to talk to someone, or they leave the classroom, I hate how I have to always chase them to tell them to turn the FM system off, because they will always leave it on. And I was just like, I don't want to listen to this. One time in 6th grade, we had a little episode with the FM system being on, and I was like, I am never doing this again. In 8th grade, we got a different FM system where they wanted me to wear the loop neck one. I refused to wear that. I'm like, I am not wearing this. It makes me look like I have a piece of, I don't know, robot equipment. I mean, I did not want to do that. So we got like a smaller one, like a different boot that goes on my piece. It was a little bit smaller, and then the teacher will wear like a little box that goes here and it clips up. Like, that was good. just like the big thing I hate is when a lot of my teachers who are like women, they would wear like jewelry, like necklaces, like big chunky necklaces, and I would hear the like banging, banging. I was like, I am getting tired of this. I can't do this. And then one day I was like, I refuse to wear the FM system. I'm not doing it. I'm done. I told my parents I was done. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. My parents like, you have to wear it. We had a couple meetings where they were like, you need to wear this, you need this in order to hear and everything. And I was like, that's when I started. I try to keep secret. I didn't want to wear it because a lot of students and my classmates were just starting to make fun of me with it. And I was like, no. And then they all start staring at me for getting up and just getting on the FM system. And then a couple times when we class, we do group discussions or group readings. My aide, who I had at the time, would have the like teacher's mic, and she would have to literally run across the room trying to give them the microphone so I could understand like what's being said or what we're reading. That never worked, and I'm just like, I can't do this. And my parents basically kind of forced me, and my teachers kind of forced me. I had to wear it, and then I was like, okay, fine, I'll wear it. And I was still afraid to show my face though, because I'm like, I'm just gonna get made fun of, bullied for the rest of my time in middle school and high school. At the end of 8th grade, I was like, I need to do something. So I talked to Miss Jordan. I was like, what can we do about getting people to understand why I have an FM system and like how I'm deaf? So we came up with like a presentation where I was to get up and speak to my entire class and tell them the reason why I have an FM system, why I have cochlear implant, and how this benefits me as a deaf impaired person. So I was like, okay, so we gave them like a different spelling test, like not like a regular spelling test. We gave them a spelling test based on a tape recorder of how I would hear it with my cochlear implants on. So the first time we did it, it was like what the teacher would say for a hearing person. That was good. The second time was how a deaf individual with cochlear implants will hear it. They will understand it, but then the third time will be when there's background noise and everything going on as a deaf individual hear it, and they'll be completely awful. No one could understand what was going on. And just telling them about what a cochlear implant does, my history about it, my background as a deaf individual. I feel like that kind of got them to understand about myself and like what is so important to me to have an FM system, and for them to like slow down a little when they talk and not like rush or like cover their mouth and when they're afraid to like repeat something over and over again. And then after that, I feel like that made a big difference in my rest of my middle school into high school. I faced a lot of challenges, but everyone, even like my classmates, my teachers, and like when I played on school sports, all of my coaches were very caring and very understanding, trying to make sure I understood everything and was not being left behind.
That's great. And I think technology, somebody talked about bone conduction music players and different kinds of headphones and ear pods and stuff. Just technology has come a long way. Cochlear implant technology has come a long way. But the mini mics that are available, the Bluetooth technology, things are getting smaller. What's really nice about our school district is our middle and high school has sound field systems in every classroom. So as the culture of the school has kind of evolved, most of the teachers are actually using the sound field systems most of the time. And if they have a student who's deaf or hard of hearing in the classroom, they're supposed to use the sound field system. So even though it's not a personal hat system, it does give some amplification and it helps. It's a lot better than having nothing. And up until this year with the COVID restrictions, they also had a pass around microphone. So some of the teachers were really good about using the pass around microphone, like Amanda said, so that when a student in the classroom speaks, they could hear it. And a lot of the teachers that I work with too are really great in that they will repeat what kids in the classroom say. They'll repeat responses or highlight key points so that the deaf or hard of hearing student can kind of hear what other people are saying if they don't have access to it through hearing. So that's good. And you mentioned something that I thought was really good. You were talking about sports. The other thing that I find is, when you're in middle and high school, it's kind of when you're figuring out who you are and what you're good at. And can you talk a little bit about sports or interests or hobbies that you both have that helped you to connect with people? Like, how did you find your people? How did you find your group, your friends?
Well, I've been playing sports since I was probably 5 years old. I did multiple sports. I was always busy, but it gave me a way to like interact with some of the my teammates that are in the same town as me, that are the same age as me. I was able trying just to get out of my comfort zone and not be so trapped with my hearing loss, or I was able to like get out and just like be a normal person and just like have fun. I just made a lot of friends playing sports.
With my experience, it's a little bit different. So, like as you all know, like with Amanda, she was implanted at a younger age, and I was hard of hearing at 3. I didn't explain that earlier, but like after I was implanted at 5, like I needed to, do intensive speech therapy, writing, reading comprehension, like starting at 5 from kindergarten up. So with sports and stuff, I was able to participate in basketball and then what was it? T-ball. I think that's what it was back then. I
Yes.
did that in my town with my sister, and I also have a twin sister. She's hearing. But yeah, we both did that. And then when I went to Lincoln School in Providence in 4th grade, I participated in like soccer after school, and I did basketball like throughout middle school. But the only issue was that I had to go to speech, like no matter what, because my parents are like, you have to go to speech because you have to catch up. And I said, but I don't want to go. I want to, be like everyone else playing sports and doing other hobbies. Like I did Girl Scouts for a couple of years. And then even though I had to create a schedule where I had to go to speech 2 to 3 times a week after school, I ended up doing theater in from 6th grade to senior year. I did theater the entire time, and in high school specifically because I did have more intensive speech therapy and specifically comprehension. I was able to balance my schedule out where I was able to commit more to doing theater, which made me happy because I was like, oh, finally, I'm given a chance to do something I actually want to commit to and not have to miss a practice or rehearsal or whatever. So, like that was like the biggest challenge I had to deal with. But otherwise, I was definitely grateful that I was able to experience trying new hobbies and new sports. And I also did tennis for 1 season. And I ended up just finishing out my senior year with acting because I realized that I could balance my schedule out better with acting instead of doing sports where you had to, go away for a game or you had to leave class early. And I was like, I can't do this. So I was like, I'll just stick to acting and go to speech and do whatever else I want to do outside of school, like maybe on a weekend. And yeah.
So I definitely want to add on. From my entire elementary school, I did soccer, t-ball, baseball slash t-ball's baseball, and then I did basketball, and I did golf. I played golf. So like since I got my first implant at the age of 3, I was pretty good with my speech. I was seeing a speech teacher at school, so I was practicing my speech a lot. So like, and then that was not really a big deal. And then as I got into like all the way through like middle school, I was very good. And then when I decided to get my second implant at the age of 14, which was right after 8th grade, I knew that I was gonna have to go see a speech pathologist, like at Children's Hospital, twice every week. And then I was like, I was afraid it was gonna impact the sport, and of course it did. So let me back up a little. So in middle school, I tried out for the JV junior varsity soccer team. And then I did basketball, junior varsity basketball. And then I did track and field in middle school. So in 8th grade, when I had after 8th grade, I had surgery. I had like the whole summer, I had to take the whole summer off, was not allowed to play sports, so I could like let my head heal and then go speech therapist, which was, I made a commitment to go, okay, good. And then as school started, I had to keep going. And I did not like the idea that I was gonna be missing practice or games when it came to soccer season. It was like one of my favorite sports. And I was like, I don't wanna miss it. I feel like if I miss it, I won't be able to play a game, or that everyone's just gonna hate me and not want me on the team anymore. But I was like, okay, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. And then I talked to my coaches and I told them that I had surgery done, that I need to go see a speech teacher just to help me with my hearing on my right ear. They totally understood. And then I always made sure they gave me the soccer schedule earlier before it got posted. So I always made sure that I schedule appointments on practice days that was not gonna impact me on game days. And they were very accommodating. They made sure that I was still able to have playing time during game season. I was going there for about like a year, so I was missing like basketball practice, soccer practice, track and field practice, which all of my coaches were very understanding what was going on. And then as I got into high school, I did junior season, like I did track and field all the way through. I did soccer all the way through. In the summer, I did travel softball, club soccer, club softball. And then I was playing golf. Yeah, I'm very athlete. I'm every single weekend I'm like booked. But my teammates and my coaches were very understanding of my hearing loss, and they were all able to accommodate me.
That's awesome. When you are, I was thinking about like the COVID restrictions and everyone wearing masks and stuff like that. Or like at work or in college, when you're in groups, when you're in like social groups, what do you do? Like, is it difficult sometimes to have conversations in groups? Like if you're in a meeting at work or in a class at school when you're supposed to be talking to peers? And what are some things that you've done to kind of help in those situations?
Well, when we were in high school, we did a lot of like small groups. My teacher will always make sure that instead of getting a group of like 5 to 6 classmates, I would just get like a group of 3 of like 2 other classmates. That way, it would not be such a hassle to try to pass the microphone around. And then just having a much smaller group helped me a lot to understand what we're discussing about or what our project was. And it gave me more face-to-face interaction instead of like looking in a circle, like, what are we doing? So I feel like just being in big groups, I don't like it. Smaller groups are better. And then with this whole COVID thing, so I got laid off with my job. So I ended up going back to my part-time job, which was at Shaw's Supermarket as the produce clerk. So when I went back, it was not a big deal because we didn't have to wear masks at the time. And then like a few weeks when masks were mandatory, I think I have lost it. I was like one in the back room. The first day I was doing stuff on the floor, putting fruit and vegetables out. I was fine. Then some person came to me, started asking me questions. I asked the person to repeat it like 5 times, could not understand anything they said. A person yelled at me, started swearing at me. So I was like, okay, let me get my manager. So my manager came over and talked, and I went in the back room. I started bawling my eyes out. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Why am I here? What is going on? And then my manager came in and was like, are you okay? I'm like, this whole mask situation is not working out for me. I can't read anyone's lips. everyone's just yelling at me. I can't understand what's going on. Their faces are being covered. Like they're being blocked. I'm like, I don't understand what is going on. It's getting much harder for me to understand anything. So my produce manager was very kind, and we talked to like my HR, the store manager, to understand my concerns. And then they were very like accommodating that instead of having you like working on the floor 7 days a week, we will put you in the back room, like break down loads, pallets, and like a groceries department. And produce, I would help prep different fruit and vegetables that need to be prepared for the day. So they were very accommodating, just like working around my frustrations, and they were very kind to like help me. There would be like a few days I would have to go cover a shift on the floor. Like if anyone came to me asking me something I didn't understand them, right away I just told them to go see that my manager over there, or to go see my coworker over there. They'll be willing to help you, because I'm sorry I can't help you. And I just did the best I could.
That's all you could do.
No, I mean, I remember when Amanda told me all of this, and I felt so bad for her. And I said, but you got this, you can do it, you're gonna be fine. But at least you were like communicating well with your boss, because that's what's important. And I was hold on, let me decline this call. Somebody was trying to call me and it just came up. Sorry about that. So yeah, I felt so bad, but like she got through it just fine. So I, from my experience, like, you know, throughout middle and high school, I went to an all-girls school. I also didn't say that, but my class was really small. I had 39 girls in my class. So all of my group projects or group discussions only had like 2 to 3 people per group, because we were such a small class. And every class I was in would have like up to at least 13 students, and that was it. So we were always in like our desks were like in a circular, so we would all be able to see each other. And I also had tennis balls under the I forgot what they're called, the legs, and I don't remember. But I remember using those, so that helped me be able to have like the ability to move my desk with the student next to me, or like one person or 2 people, and it would make it so much easier to have discussions with them. Or if I had a robotics class in high school, which was really fun, I would sit on the floor with like 1 to like 4 people to be able to discuss things. And I did use a pass around microphone in middle school, but in high school I didn't use it as much because we were in such a small group. It was easy to understand them, and they understood that I needed, to read their lips and all of that. And it was fine all the way through high school because I knew them. And then with working now, like I said, I finished my master's during COVID. So I did my entire program online, and I didn't have any Zoom classes. So I did everything alone, and then I was trying to find a job. And then I finally got a part-time job with Lululemon in Cranston, Rhode Island. And my concern was just wearing the mask and talking to guests that were coming in. And so my boss was so sweet, and she said, "What do you want me to do? Like, what do you need for us to do?" And I said, "Well, I mean, I have to wear the mask. Like, I will listen as much as I can, but if I need help, repeating something, just do it. Like, don't ask me if why." But also they let me kind of do my own thing. So for example, when a guest would come in and I was in the back and they needed some leggings hemmed or a shirt to be hemmed, I had like a little whiteboard, and I said, "Oh, if you don't mind, can you just write your name and your phone number so I can write it down in the book instead of me asking to spell it out when it's just easy to write for them to write it down for me." And then also for like online orders, we had a BBR, so it was like on an iPhone, and I had to take a lot of orders on that, and I did struggle with the guest trying to say their name and phone number, emails. So a few times I did tell him, like, "I'm sorry, like, I'm deaf and I have cochlear implants and it's really hard for me to understand you." And immediately they were like, "I know I'm not supposed to do this," but they literally lowered down their mask for me and just like said what they had to say. I told them, thank you for your patience. Like, I appreciate it a lot. And I never had a problem from like working at Lululemon. It was a seasonal job. So I just finished up my contract a couple weeks ago, actually. But at the same time, they're such a large company. I told the store manager that like you should be proud that you were able to accommodate a deaf individual and a deaf employee, because not we don't know if there's other deaf and hard of hearing employees who work for another store in the United States or in Canada, which where they're based from. And she said, definitely have learned a lot from you. And I did bring up, closed captioning in our meetings, and also with Lululemon's company as a whole, they didn't have closed captioning for a couple of training videos. And I told them, what's going on with that? I said, I see closed captions, but they're in French. Like, you never had an English option? Like, no, that does not work like that. So they were able to bring it up to whoever dealt with that, and the captions came up like a week later, and I was like, see, that wasn't that hard to do. So it was a great experience working with them, and I'm hoping to come back once they have like more hours. But right now, I was hired at a healthcare agency in Barrington, Rhode Island, and I'm an administrator for two self-directed programs. So the difference working in the office versus working from home, which I don't do, at the office, I do work with about 8 women, and they all were so sweet to me once I like, explained to them like my accommodations, and they said, no problem, like we have to wear a mask, but they're willing to, speak a little bit slower with me. And if the doorbell rang, outside of our door, somebody would say, I'll get it or whatever. I could look at the camera and see who it is. And I also have my own office, so I don't have to wear my mask. So if my coworker like walks by and they want to talk to me, they will lower down their mask to talk to me, or they'll just stand there and I'll just listen to them as much as I can. And everything's been great working with them. And trying to see what else. I also have a phone. I think y'all will get a kick out of this. So there's a caption call phone where it's touchscreen, and it's like, the font is big and everything. It's really nice. And basically when a client calls me, the volume's not, it's loud, but I lower it down just because I don't need it to be screaming in my ears. And I would just pick it up and I say my name, like, and where I'm working at, and the captions would start showing up from the client, and they would just like ask me whatever questions they're concerned about, or a follow-up about an application. I would be able to like say what I have to say, and when I hang up, I could save the call. And so if I needed the person's number or their name, I can go right back into the saved calls and like get their information instead of calling them back and asking for that information. I also like the feature where it has all of the missed calls, but I could save all of the numbers too, which is really nice. So I can call that person back without having to find the number and being like, where is this number? Where it's in the missed call section, I can just save them. And then lastly, with voice messages, when I get a voicemail, I've had a few I couldn't understand at all, and the captions were a little bit confusing because it would just make up words, and kind of like on YouTube captioning that happens. So I was already expecting that. So if I didn't understand something, but if I got a name, I would just pass it on to the next administrator or my supervisor, who would take that client's number and call them for me so they could deal with whatever they have to deal with. But yeah, I've been working there since October. So it'll be 4 months this month. And so far, I love my job, and the accommodations they have provided me are amazing, and I've had no problems.
That's great. I'm glad you mentioned accommodations too, because there's a question in the chat that I wanted to ask you guys about as well. I know that you had an IEP, you each had IEPs when you were going through school. Did you transition to a 504 before you left high school? Did you have a 504 in college? And then the question in the chat was, do you have a 504? Have you, either of you, ever approached an employer for a 504 plan at work to implement accommodations under the ADA?
Wait, is it 504? Can you use that after in college or after college? I didn't know this. I
I
didn't know
think, well,
this.
so as I was graduating senior year of high school, I was told I'm not getting an IEP plan. I was nothing. I'm like, okay, it's fine. So the 5-4, we didn't know about it back then, so we didn't use it, nothing. And then my first freshman year of college was not a big deal. I didn't need it. And then my second year of college, I started taking history classes, and I'm like, the tests were getting timed, and I was like panicking. I was like, I'm gonna run out of time. I was starting to run out of time taking the test because I was trying to focus on reading each question very carefully and understand it. So the first test, I like hit time. I was a few questions off. My professor let me finish, which is great. And then I called my parents. I was like, my history tests are timed. I couldn't finish my test because time's up. They were like, okay. So they were like, what can we do? And then my mom made some phone calls, and we realized that there was a disability office that like for students who needs any help with anything, with like who had like previous IEPs or like extended time on their tests or needed like note takers or stuff, to go see them. So I made the appointment to go see with her. What I had to get like an old copy of my IEPs, bring it to her, and then she looked at it and she's like, okay, so she's like, how come you didn't use this freshman year? I was like, well, I was told I couldn't use it, and I like didn't really need it because I didn't have any tests back in freshman year. And then she was like, well, you should have brought this to us earlier so we would have given it to you, which again, I didn't know at the time I could have had this. So she was able to add time and a half accommodation to my test, which was a big help. I was not freaking out of time and yeah, so like I from there I used time and a half throughout college, and that was like my lifesaver. And then with work, so I went back to Ads Life Marketing as a graphic designer back in August after the whole summer. I was lucky because we were working from home. Nothing was like video or phone calls. So I was very lucky. Everything was just through email communication. So I didn't have to like contact my clients or anything. But when I did work up the company 2 years ago, I was like, I'm deaf. I have 2 cochlear implants. I need some accommodations. What can we do? They were like, well, I was like, I would love a caption phone, like Olivia mentioned. They were like, well, we'll look into it. Like, okay. A couple weeks went by, nothing. I heard nothing. I was like, okay, can I get a caption phone or what? I need this because like it has an intercom on it. So they will do an intercom for the entire office, or if they need like someone to call this person, they will intercom it. I was missing it out. I like didn't know that my boss was trying to intercom me, and I didn't know that. And then my coworker was like, our boss is looking for you. You might want to go up there. I'm like, oh crap, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear him. So I had to explain to him, I'm sorry I missed their intercom. I didn't hear you or anything. And then he was like, okay, we gotta do something. I'm like, okay. The next day my HR came to me with a cell phone. I'm like, what is this supposed to do? They were like, well, we downloaded a caption app on it that we're going to connect it to your work phone, because they would not give me a work phone, a new work phone, because they said I needed this phone because it has intercom on it. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue with them about them getting like switching phones. They were complaining about it. I'm like, whatever. The caption phone on the cell phone, it worked great. However, it did not pick up the intercom calls at all. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then from there, some of my clients would do only phone calls. And I was like, I can't do phone calls without a caption phone. They're like, okay, we'll switch the clients. We switched clients, and then it was fine, didn't have any issues. And then one client I got had to call me because it was like an emergency. I'm like, okay. So I couldn't understand a word she said on the phone. I was like, okay, you know what? Let me give you my cell phone number. Call me on my cell phone. Because on my cell phone, I have the volume all the way higher, louder, and I have it really close to my implant so I could hear it much clearer. And from there, I just use my own cell phone because I can hear their voice so much better.
I want to add on to that actually with the caption call phone. You can use it at home, by the way, but my office, we also have the intercom going on, but they did drop a direct line for me, so they researched what they had to do, and when the representative from caption call came with the phone, he said, so how are we going to do this? He goes, I said, well, we need Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi's all set. He goes, okay, do you have like a direct line? I said, yep, right there. So I just plugged it right in. And I have my own direct number. So I told everybody in the office, and the secretary also told everyone, saying, if you need to reach Olivia, make sure you call her at this number, not extension whatever, like call her at this number. So she had it written down on the phone list, and on all of the applications I receive from employees or employers, my number is on there now, so they can call me directly instead of calling my other work phone with the intercom on it and saying, oh, is this so and so? I'm like, no, this is not. They call me on this number instead. And it works so well. So everybody from the other suite who I work with, I never get to see them because of COVID. They call me on my my other phone. So I just say, call me on the other phone. And they say, okay, they know the number. So that's something that could be a comedy for you, Amanda. Like, you definitely just have to say, hey, I'm gonna get my own phone. Like, you could literally get your own phone and then tell your boss, I got this phone, use this number. And that's all you have to do. And they can't ask you questions. They just have to use that number. And you can tell your clients to use that number, and it'll make it a lot easier for you. So that's something I wanted to add on with that. So yeah.
I think Amanda and Olivia and we need to talk a little bit about 504s, because I think that would be
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember anything.
But and actually Heather Tucker is the special ed director in Duxbury Public Schools. She's actually my boss, and she just posted in the chat that a 504 is a legal accommodation plan, and it's designed to be implemented building based. So you can have that whether it's a public school, a college, or a place of work. And it protects your rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and they have to provide the things that you need to be able to do your job. So we will talk more about that.
Yeah, for sure.
We're getting close to the end of our hour, although we can go a little bit longer if everybody wants to, because I want to open the floor to some questions in the chat if anybody has questions. Do you girls mind if we stay on a little bit longer?
That's fine.
Bye.
Does anyone have any questions? If you wouldn't mind posting it in the chat, that would be great.
Well, I actually want to say something because I know Joanne comment something about the clear mask. So let me tell you an interesting story. As you probably saw on the poster, there was a picture of me and someone who had a clear mask. So I'm obsessed with Cycle Bar, which is an indoor cycling class that is like a 45-minute workout on bikes. When Massachusetts put an order that you have to wear a mask at workouts now at all times, the first 2 weeks, I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. I have a bike. Like, the owners are very friendly. They understand me. On all of my name for every single bike, it says I'm deaf, just so they know, the instructor knows, and I get a bike center right in front of the instructor so I could hear them loud and clear on their microphones. When a mask went in effect, it was fine for 2 weeks because I didn't go as much. And then I hated it. I was like, I cannot understand anything that's being said. So I talked to the two owners about getting a clear mask. And it's like, forget clear mask, I'll be able to understand them a lot better and read their lips, because I told them I need read lips in order to understand what's being said. They were very fortunate enough to buy clear mask, and now every single instructor has about 5 of them. In every single class that I'm in, when my name shows up on the computer system, it says, need a clear mask. So the instructor has a clear mask and they wear it to every single class. It's great. The first few days when we started wearing them, it was getting a little foggy, but it was not a big issue. And then I told them something, they read something about spraying it with a special, I think, dish soap or something. I can't remember what they said. It made it clear the entire time, and it was just a great way for me to like keep going. And then it was just like, and it just like made my day when they started doing that.
That's awesome. Some of my students actually prefer the paper masks or thinner cloth masks because they don't dampen the sound as much. And some of my students really prefer the clear masks because they really rely on the lip reading. So I think it is kind of an independent choice. I do see a question in the chat, and we didn't talk too much about college, so this is a good segue. What was your experience getting a roommate in college?
I'll definitely answer that. So like I said, I went to two different colleges. So at Stonehill, which is in Easton, Massachusetts, I did not struggle finding a roommate. I actually found my roommate through my orientation group. We somehow knew each other when we were younger. So she knew exactly who I was, and she knew that I was deaf. Like, she just remembered everything. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll be your roommate, no big deal. And we hit it off, and the residence life director at Stonehill, she's hard of hearing. So when she found out about my situation, she was able to accommodate my roommate and I with the room on the first floor. And I was like the first door. So like there's an emergency, I'd be the first, like my roommate and I would be the first two people out. And she was always there for me. Like, I asked her, like, oh, if something happens, like, wake me up. Because sometimes I just don't wake up. Like, I had a shake awake alarm clock in college, but with her, I was just like, if something happens, just wake me up or anything. Just, I would appreciate that. She helped me out with anything that I needed. And she was like, yeah, no problem. Like, you're good. And then sophomore year, I ended up having a different roommate who I met in freshman year. And with her, it was a little bit easier because we had a very similar schedule. So our schedules were like in a way where I would wake up first and I would just be like getting ready. It was so hard to be quiet because I'm loud. My roommate could be loud if I was sleeping. Like, must be nice to have a deaf roommate. But she always respected me. Like, she was saying, hey, like, if I do this or whatever, is it okay? And I said, yeah, no problem. Like, just let me know. Same thing for emergencies. I had a doorbell outside of our room, so if someone would have come by and I was doing something, I didn't hear them, or I was listening to music, they would just ring it and the strobe light would go off, and my roommate would be like, someone's at the door, and I was like, oh, sorry, like, got it. And then going to RIT, I had an apartment on campus, and I had 3 deaf roommates. All of them used American Sign Language. I was the only one who used spoken language, and I did not know ASL as well. So I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I ended up learning more ASL through my roommates, but it was definitely tricky at first because every night I would have to make sure that like the stove, the oven, the door, I would make sure everything's locked, everything's turned off because they would forget sometimes. So I would have to remind them, like, just lock, like, just make sure everything's turned off or whatever. But I ended up becoming close with the roommate next to me, and like we had a fire drill like in the middle of the night, and I literally woke up to that, and I had to wake them all up, and I was like, get up, let's go. Okay, we're good. But that was a really interesting experience having 3 roommates, and I had my own room, which was nice to have. And then finally my senior year, Amanda and I ended up being roommates. She lived right next to me, and we had another roommate who we were best friends with, and a hearing roommate with us. So having Amanda by my side was so easy because we knew, like, if something happened, I would just go right into her room. So like everyone's different, but I'm telling you, having a deaf roommate can be awesome. And also a hearing roommate, like, I definitely was very fortunate to have great roommates, and I'm still really close with them now. So yeah, it was great.
You had lots of practice with Alexia too, having a twin, you know? a hearing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I did share a room with my sister for 13 years, so it's fun.
So my roommate experience was a lot different compared to Olivia. My freshman year, so I roomed with a friend that we went to like explore your future camp at RIT NTID one summer. So we were like, oh, let's room up. Okay, good. That lasted about the first semester. Then I'm like, no. The second semester of freshman year, I moved to rooms to one of the friends that I came really close with the first semester. We had a blast. It was fun. Oh, they're all deaf, by the way. All my roommates are deaf. That they're like deaf but wear cochlear implants like we do. Second semester, the second year, I ended up rooming with one of my really good best friends from freshman year. We were great, no issues. We were roommates sophomore and junior year. And then the middle of junior year, we got into a huge fight that we could not stand each other. And then she was like trying to move out. She's like, we can't stand each other. She's trying to move out. I'm trying to move out. And then they were like, well, you both can't move out, because someone had to be in the room. So I was like, okay, fine. So I ended up moving into a quad with three of my best friends. They're on the same field as me. They're all deaf and have cochlear implants. We had a great time. We all got on each other's nerves a little being in the quad, but what can you say? And then my senior year, I ended up getting in an apartment with Olivia, another deaf friend of ours, and one of the hearing. So living with someone who's deaf like me all the way till senior year and having one hearing person was like a big change for me. I was like, oh, so she could hear things in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping or what I'm doing something, and I will forget that I need to be quiet at night if she's sleeping. I'm like, oops, hope she didn't hear me. But she didn't really mind it, what I did, and she did her own thing, we did our own thing. Like Olivia said, having her right next to each other, like next door to each other, was like a great way. Like if I was upset or something, she knew to come in my room and just we'll sit down and talk. And then if she was like, I'm gonna go take a nap, she would go in her room, take a nap. I would literally be like, go in her room and wake her up, be like, it's time to get up.
There was a time,
great.
like I remember, well, there was a time where I have food poisoning. I literally texted her at 4:45 in the morning, please get me this and this and this and this. 8:30 in the morning, I feel her on my bed and she's tapping me. She looked at me, she was, I obviously couldn't see that because I wear glasses. She's like, how are you feeling? And I started crying. I was like, I'm sad. She goes, why didn't you get me? I'm right next door. And I said, I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to bother. She's like, well, you can bother me all you want. And I was also there when Amanda went through her roommate troubles and all that. She even stayed in my apartment when I transferred the first year. I said, you can stay with me. No big deal. And then senior year ended up being the best year of our lives, literally the best year. And we made so many fun memories together. And I was just like, wow, it was nice just having some deaf roommates that like we knew each other, knew someone else. And then the hearing roommate, it was nice to have her because she already understood how it was to live with deaf roommates and like helping us out. We needed like any help from her. And it was just a great year.
So I want to add thing. So my dorm life was very accommodating because NTID has a deaf community. So it's like a mixture of deaf, hard of hearing, oral deaf, hard of hearing, American Sign Language deaf, and then hearing people. So every single dorm has a doorbell outside your doors. So when you're in a doorbell, light will flash into your bedroom saying there's someone at the door. There is a strobe fire alarm that is also in your dorm rooms. And then, yeah, so you get a fire alarm, a strobe fire alarm, and doorbell. So that was very accommodating in the dorm rooms. And then the dorm room is a mixture of everyone, which is hearing, hard of hearing. So you're not like, oh, I'm with all the hearing people. No, you'll see deaf people all the time. You'll interact with them. So from like compared to Stonehill, it's almost only like mostly hearing people. RIT is like a mixture of everyone, and everyone understands that there's deaf people here, and they're very like caring and trying to communicate with you. Like some hearing people thought I only knew American Sign Language, so they would start texting me, and I'm like, I could talk, and they were amazed that I could talk. Where some people I met only spoke American Sign Language, so they were nice to try to teach me it, so I was able to learn it. In addition, I decided to take American Sign Language courses as my minor, so I was able to communicate more and more with deaf people through American Sign Language. And then it was just nice to see that everyone was trying to interact with each other. RIT does a no voice zone, which happens once every week, that for an hour, no one's allowed to talk. You only learn sign language. And it's a great way for hearing people to learn sign language, like basics of sign language. And it's just amazing how like almost the whole community will come together and learn something.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. Does anyone have any other questions? I could sit here and talk to you guys all night, but
You could.
no, Ashley has social studies homework to do, so I've got to go help her.
Oh gosh.
Thank you so much, both of you. And thank you to all of you who came and participated tonight. We will be having more of these, I think, because it seems like there's enough interest in it. And you guys did such an awesome job that I think I have to continue this. So hopefully you'll join me again. And I hope you all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olivia.
Hi,
And
everyone.
when this is all over, we got to catch up.
Perfect.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.